All right, happy to take questions.
Mark, why are you so concerned about the 95-year lease that's been talked about today? This is obviously a massive facility, a massive investment. I think there's negotiation here where they want a long lease to amortize all this money they're putting into this water park spa thing.
Well, first of all, 95 years, that's like a century. This government has just given away, apparently, to a Austrian corporate conglomerate to build an elite luxury spa that, as far as I can tell, nobody in Ontario asked for. So I would like to see the details, and that's what I was asking for today. I was asking the government to share details. I would like to see the business case. I've already asked for the business case. I'd like to see the details of the contract that they've made, because 95 years, that's outrageous. Ontarians are absolutely going to be concerned that this government seemingly has, sold off or given away this important public land to a company, and they have no details. We have no details, and Ontarians have had no say.
The project, the whole conception for Ontario Place, which was left mothballed under McGinsey, ever since then, under the previous government and this government, the sort of window of what they wanted to do was always bring in a private sector operator, and we don't want to put any money into it. Is that something you disagree with? You want it to be a public facility?
I mean, this is public land, so what I think is that the people of Ontario should have a say. The communities that are impacted should have a say. There should be a conversation about what the opportunity is here. This is a potential jewel for the province of Ontario. And instead, what this government is doing is making backroom deals. Something when a government refuses to share even the business case for this luxury spa, moving the Ontario Science Centre, when they refuse to share the details of a contract, when we're talking about the land that Ontarians paid for, I think something smells fishy. I think the people in this province deserve to know the details, and the fact that the government is hiding that is concerning to me, and I think it's concerning to many Ontarians.
Why do you say give it? You use the term "give it away." Isn't the spa spending $500 million or something
Well, and the government is subsidizing them with $650 million taxpayer dollars to subsidize this, and then to leave it up to some private company to care for our public land. At the end of the day, this is land that is a jewel for this province. We have an opportunity here, and I think the fact that this government has chosen instead to develop a contract to spend $650 million to subsidize an Austrian company to come here and build an elite private spa, it just seems like so low on the list of priorities of Ontarians right now. Ontarians are struggling with day-to-day living. We certainly need to see economic opportunity in this province, but I'm baffled to see how this benefits Ontarians, and I think that's what people are looking for answers about.
On VW, are we paying too much to lure VW, or is it simply the cost of doing business in a world where we're trying to keep what's left of an evolving auto industry here in Ontario?
I think that the deal with VW, I'm glad to see us moving in the direction of creating and prioritizing green jobs and moving towards a cleaner, greener economy. And I think we've seen similar situations before. What I am concerned about is the fact that this premier seems to want to distance himself from that. I don't know if it's that he just can't decide, who his boss is. Is it Pierre Poilievre or is it Doug Ford? Is it Pierre Poilievre or is it Justin Trudeau? And I really do find it concerning that he seems to be distancing himself from that right now. What I want to see is good green jobs in Ontario, and I would love to see more details of that deal.
So I don't understand. What is Ford distancing himself?
I think he doesn't seem to want to talk about the subsidy to VW, and I understand.
Did you ask him about it?
No, I did not ask him about it.
Because I didn't hear a question.
No.
But I mean, the province announced their subsidy on Friday. Ford was at the announcement and was happy to be there. So I don't understand.
I see them and members of his government trying to kind of duck some of the questions around that, and I think it has more to do with the fact that they're concerned about, Doug Ford doesn't know whose boss is in Ottawa anymore. He can't decide whether it's Justin Trudeau or Pierre Poilievre.
Are you gonna ask them about that tomorrow in person?
I may. I mean, there are a lot of issues right now that we're all, trying to keep up with. Ontarians are really struggling out there right now. The cost of things. We have all kinds of questions around Ontario Place, the selling off of the green belt. There's so many issues, and I'm going to be continuing to bring forward the concerns of Ontarians in question.
Is there a way to force the government to release either the business case or this contract, or do you just keep asking? Like, what kind of tools do you have?
Yeah, we're going to be continuing to look at what tools we have at our disposal. Certainly, I would have hoped that the government would just come forward with it. We shouldn't have to fight the government of this province to get details about how and why they're spending $650 million of Ontario taxpayer money to subsidize a deal with a private profit Austrian corporation that's building a luxury spa on public land. Surely Ontarians should be able to expect some transparency and accountability here from the government. The fact that they haven't just, made that readily available to Ontarians, I think, speaks to questions about the deal and things that they may be trying to hide.
When you give that multi-million-dollar figure, I mean, it isn't just going to that company, right? It's got the Science Center now and Live Nation as well. Does that make it okay?
The $650 million is directly linked to the Therma deal. So, and I think we'll wait and see what the cost is going to be. We still don't know what the estimated cost is of moving the Ontario Science Center. And we don't know what the government is planning to try to do with the land that they apparently thought they had the right to build on, which is the Ontario Science Center land. Guess what? It actually belongs to St. Toronto. So I think the whole Ontario Science Center deal smacks of a slapdash, back of the napkin plan that was made to create a distraction from the deal that they've made with Therma, with this Austrian company, which is like, again, let's just get real, 100 years that this company is going to have rights to that land. What are the details? What happens if they go under? What happens if they say, actually, no, we don't want Ontarians on this land? Is that actually part of the deal? What are the details of that contract that this government has signed behind closed doors with them?
But is there any scenario when this year of 95 years, this lease of 95 years will make sense? We don't have the details, but is that too long in any case for any lease?
I mean, we've seen deals like that. Like we've seen leases like that in a couple of instances, but it's usually when you're talking about a public institution on public land. So like the Ontario Science Centre on Toronto City land. This is a good example of where that kind of thing makes sense because you're investing public dollars into that space. I think that, again, I'd like to see what the business case is for that. I'd like to see the details of the contract, and I think Ontarians would too. Everywhere I go in this province, it's not just people in Toronto. People are asking what the government is up to. Something doesn't smell right here.
It's my understanding that your contract also includes the cost of maintaining the public land that they promised, some other amenities around the spa that people will be allowed to go into the spa. Isn't 95 years of maintenance for many acres of the park from a private company? Isn't that a good deal for them?
Well, let's see what the deal is. They haven't shared it with us. They keep saying that. I haven't seen the contract. And what happens if they go under? What happens if at some point they say, this isn't really working for us? Is there a reopener? Could they go back to the table again? I don't trust them. And I don't think we should be leaving it up to some, big company in Austria to decide how our public land is maintained. I don't know what their interest is. They're already talking about closing off a big chunk of what is now public land and public property that was paid for by the people of Ontario to a luxury spa that most people, I gotta tell you, are not begging for a luxury spa right now. They're trying to figure out how they're gonna afford groceries, right? So how does this become the priority for this province and for this government? I'd like to see the details of that contract and that deal. Okay, thank you very much.